Today we're here with a 2019 Lexus GX. We're about to install the 2014 to 2021 Lexus GX Hamilton conversion kit for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This is going to be a complete screen replacement that's going to make your 2014 to 21 GX look like the facelifted 2022 Plus model. We sell for this vehicle two different products now. We have our complete screen replacement that we'll show you today that has everything built in that you'll need. We also have a less expensive product that keeps your factory screen if you prefer. That product is available to check out in some of our other videos on our website. It's called the Lexus GX Upgrade Kit, and that product will use your factory screen so you don't have to do a full screen replacement. We're really excited about this product. We've been developing it for quite some time, and we've really taken it up a notch to be absolutely Lexus quality. Let's get going. We'll show you through the installation process in this video. We're going to make another video today as well that will show you an overview of the product and how to use it. We've gone ahead and put the vehicle in neutral. We have the parking brake on. We're now going to loosen and remove the negative battery cable. We'll use a 10mm socket for this. We recommend always chalking the wheels in addition to using the parking brake, especially if your vehicle is a little bit on the older side and the parking brake doesn't hold well. With the power off, we're ready to begin the process. We're going to begin by removing these leather covered trim panels on both the passenger and driver's side. Start closest to the center console, pop it out, and work your way up. If your Lexus GX is a 2021, it may look slightly different than this, but the process is almost identical. When you've removed the panel, make sure all your clips are still in place. We'll set it aside and repeat on the driver's side. We're going to do the same process on the driver's side here. Press down around the gear shift to separate the shift boot from your gear shift knob, and thread the gear shift knob counterclockwise off the vehicle. We'll set it aside. Next, we're going to remove a small trim panel underneath your factory head unit here. We've ordered a cheap set of trim pry tools for under $10 on Amazon. You can also use a credit card. In plenty of our videos, we show using a credit card as well. We're going to simply reach in and pop this one from the edge. As it comes out, make sure that both your clips are in place. We'll set it aside. We are now going to remove the center console cover. It's going to pop kind of out and up. On some of the newer cars, it's going to look slightly different, where you'll be taking out this piece with it, and this piece will simply be clipped in right here. You just grab from the back and pop up. On the older cars, and that is the ones before about 2020 to 2021, we will be removing this front portion separate from the back. It'll pop up. We'll slide it back. We're going to start by disconnecting these two harnesses up front. This gray wire can sometimes give you a little bit of trouble. And then we will disconnect these three larger white wires here. There's a little tab to press down with your fingernail on all of them. With them disconnected, we'll take the trim panel, we'll set it aside. I'm going to remove two bolts on either side of the original head unit, and we're going to remove two bolts under it, here and here as well. These are all 10mm bolts. We recommend using a deep socket. We've already removed this one here. We're going to remove this one on the driver's side. I've gone ahead and put a towel here to protect the radio from getting scratched against the gear shift when we remove it. And then I like to use two towels to protect my hands, and I'll reach in from either side and just pop it out. Now, if you've ordered the $469 less expensive product from Hamilton Motor Company, the Hamilton Motor Company upgrade kit for the GX, it's just a box that would install behind your factory screen. This is all you need to remove. If you're going to go ahead and do the installation for the full replacement screen that we're going to show in this video, we'll go ahead and disconnect the radio, and then we're going to move on to remove the screen also. Behind the screen, we're going to go ahead and disconnect these harnesses. For this large power harness, reach in here with your fingernail, press in the clip, and then you can lift out the bar, and the whole piece will come out just like that. The rest of these we'll just press down from the top to remove. You may find it helpful to use one hand to press down the bar and another hand to loosen. With all of these removed, we can now separate the factory radio from the vehicle. Now, in preparation for removing the screen to replace the screen, go ahead and use a towel over your hand and pop loose this trim panel here. It'll come out with this lower trim panel, and you can set this aside. On the driver's side, we need to remove this trim panel and the one around the start-stop button. These are simply held in by clips. You can leave them hanging loose, or you can disconnect them and set them aside. For the one with the air vent coming off of it, we're going to simply leave it hanging loose here. We are now going to remove the two 10mm bolts on either side of the factory screen. You'll use either a deep 10mm socket or a 10mm socket with a small extension. Before removing the factory screen, we're going to remove this trim with the vent in it. Simply pop under the passenger side vent, work your way in towards the factory screen, free it, and set it aside. With the vent from the passenger side removed, protect your hands and the unit on either side with towels. Pop the unit out towards you and let the factory screen down. And I'm going to disconnect the black wire, this blue wire, white wire, and then this is the hazard light wire right here. We're going to leave this adapter in place temporarily. We're now going to prepare the unit for installation into the vehicle. We're going to need to reroute these air vents, and we're going to use the included Hamilton adapters to do that. Before we install the air vent adapters, we need to install a couple of wires first. Go ahead and clip this blue one into place. It goes from the light blue to the royal blue. We'll leave it hanging loose for just now. As well, we'll go ahead and clip this royal blue GPS unit into place. This is the accessory wiring harness, and this is the main wiring harness. We're going to have a wiring diagram included with the unit, and we'll chat about all the wiring in just a second. For now, though, we just need to get the main connectors into place. This primary one from the accessory harness will snap in, and then you can go ahead and unfurl the Hamilton main harness, and we'll snap the main connector in from this one as well. Now, we've worked very hard on this product, and this is a very special product. Nobody else is going to have anything like it for sale. That being said, there are a lot of companies that will sell products that look quite similar. There is a company that manufactures what we call the tooling. It is the outer surround of this, and that is something that a few other companies will have a similar product with. That being said, nobody will have a company that uses the same level of switches, same level of electronic internals, same level of vent connectors and internals as ours. So this is a very special, one-of-a-kind product that is designed to be identical to Lexus quality. And when you look at the back of our unit compared to some of the cheaper units that will be out there, the difference in quality is very evident. We've created this metal bracket down here as well as this very high quality enclosure for our metal system up here. And we'll talk a little bit more about all the internals of this unit in our overview video and what makes it so special. We've gone ahead and covered these with foam for you. So with 1, 2, 3, 4 attached for now, we will go ahead and begin the process of connecting the air vent adapters. We're going to now, with these harnesses connected, go ahead and route them out of the way. They need to run from here down around these and into the center channel. I'm going to press one on top of the other like that. And then with this one, we'll route this one here as well. The GPS, as we're installing it, we will simply leave it hanging back there and it will route through this channel down here. We can now go ahead and install the air vent adapters. Now, with the air vents pressed into place, we'll use the included black screws. Simply take a small screwdriver. This is a number 4 Phillips head. And we'll tighten these down. You're screwing plastic, and we'll tighten these down. You're screwing metal into plastic, so you don't need to over tighten anything. Just get them snug enough. Also, don't apply too much pressure while you're doing this, so that you don't risk damaging your screen underneath. Make sure it's well supported either on a soft surface or your lap. There's going to be 3 screws per side to attach. We're going to start by installing this small accessory harness here. This is going to be for the airbag light as well as for the factory hazard switch. We're going to take these wires and we're going to feed them behind this plastic cross member here. I want to go ahead and make a few connections down here. This one, labeled hazard, is going to plug into the wire that was originally plugged into the hazard light adapter coming off of the original screen. This one right here, labeled CAN bus, is going to plug into a female wire on the main Hamilton harness that we'll show you in just a second. We're going to leave this one labeled monitor unplugged for just a minute until we get the main Hamilton harness. And this one labeled airbag is going to plug into this factory green harness, just like that. We are now going to take the main Hamilton harness here. This portion that is taped off will not be used, so don't worry about untaping it. This one is not going to be used at all. We are going to use a couple connections here. We're going to use this main power wire connection, which is going to grab the factory head unit main power wire. We're going to use this connection for HU audio. As well, we're going to use this monitor connection. And then where we showed you that CAN bus wire, it'll grab in right here. So we're going to take this bundle. We're going to go ahead and feed it down behind this plastic cross member. Once again, we are going to include a written wiring diagram. It's also on our manuals page. And so if this is confusing at all through the video, it will be really crystal clear when you see it on the written manual. This is the main power wire. It's going to grab that main power harness from the back of the original head unit. Make sure that gray bar snaps into place. We'll leave this one hanging out down here for right now, and it will plug back into the original radio. This one labeled CAN bus, coming off of the main power wire, is going to grab the small CAN bus wire that was coming off of that accessory wire we just talked about a second ago. This one labeled for HU audio is going to plug into its corresponding wire that was from the back of the original radio. It will plug back into the original radio when we install it in just a minute. All of these wires, they'll only fit one way like a jigsaw puzzle. The black wire that was plugged in the back of the original factory screen is going to plug into the female labeled monitor from the main Hamilton harness. The male from the main Hamilton harness labeled monitor is then going to plug into the female from the Hamilton accessory harness labeled monitor. It's a small connector with 3 live pins coming off of the Hamilton main harness labeled monitor. It's going to plug into this power connector on the accessory box we provide. Then, from the back of the factory screen, the blue wire is going to plug into the one labeled OEM GVIF. And the new wire that we installed into the back of the new screen labeled monitor GVIF will plug into this one as well. We're going to need to make sure that when we connect this, it goes around this plastic cross member. So we'll do that in just a second. We also installed onto the radio the Hamilton accessory harness that has the USB port here, as well as the SIM, which is not going to be used at this time. This USB port will be for wired CarPlay. All of our units will come built in with wired and wireless CarPlay. And it has a couple RCAs here. We're not going to use the one labeled AVIN. We're going to use these 2 connectors. One is labeled mic and one is labeled camera. The one labeled mic is going to plug into the OEM mic. Ours is the only system on the market that can use your factory microphone, which is really cool. cheaper systems out there will use a cheap aftermarket microphone that's very bad. And then this one labeled camera here is going to plug into a harness coming off of the monitor bundle labeled camera. We recommend, as you connect these, to go ahead and wrap them in electrical tape so that you don't get them unconnected accidentally when you put things back together. This USB is going to be for your new wired CarPlay or Android Auto. You can either drop it into the glove box by going through that channel. You can drop it into the trim box underneath the factory radio, or in this case, we're going to put it between the passenger seat and the center console for this customer. Once you've got that figured out, it's time to start organizing the wires. You need to make sure that all the wires run above the plastic center cross member. Any wires that are running under that plastic center cross member will get in the way of the factory radio when you try to reinstall it. So as we finish up all the connections, we're going to begin organizing the wires above that plastic center cross member there. Our unit is very special because it's going to use your factory radio. This is going to enable you to listen to, say, factory satellite radio while you have CarPlay showing with Waze or Apple Maps. The small speaker would be where your audio plays for the maps when you're using a factory audio channel. Of course, if you're using the factory aux channel to listen to Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, or another app, they would play through all your vehicle speakers along with the navigation audio. But if you wanted to mix navigation audio into your factory audio channels like FM, AM, or satellite, that's what this little speaker would be for. So it's a 2-pin harness. We're going to connect it to the factory harness labeled speaker right here. You can place this speaker anywhere behind the new screen when you reinstall it. We'll take the USB port. We're going to be routing this on this vehicle between the center console and the passenger seat. And we're going to drop it down here. Coming off the Hamilton main harness is a 2 green wire connector labeled UART female, and coming off the Hamilton accessory you have 2 white wires that make a UART male. There's a little notch that makes this a one-way connector. Go ahead and connect these together, make sure they click together. Also, before reinstalling the unit, we've added a little tape here on the camera wire. We recommend doing this on both the camera and microphone wires, just so that as you pull everything through, nothing will come apart on these. This large white connector labeled CAN bus will connect to the circuit board at the bottom of the Hamilton system. You can't have any wires running down below here, or when we go to put the radio back in, they'll get crimped along here and you won't be able to get the radio in. So all wires must cross from here over this pocket, over the cross member. Once you're behind the cross member, then your wires can run down to connect down here. With everything lined up behind the screen, snap it firmly into place. The clips alone will hold this new system into its socket. This right here is the new Hamilton USB, both for charging your phone and for wired CarPlay. Our systems will all have wireless and wired CarPlay. You have a couple options for this. You could drill a small hole and run it into the glove box. You could drill a small hole and run it into your center console here where your cup holders are. You could fold it up and have it drop down towards the back here. Or what we're going to do for this customer, we're going to route it between the passenger seat and the center console. So as we put the trim panels back into place, we're just going to make sure that this one stays hanging out down here. Head now and reinstall all these harnesses back into the back of the factory radio. This is simply a reverse of the original process. With the upper screen pressed into place and no wires blocking the central cross member across here, we can now go ahead and install the lower radio. As I do this, I'm going to take that large chunky power harness and I'm going to pull it around the lower cross member to free up room. And then I'm just going to gently work it from side to side and press it into place. Now this unit, it might be a little bit of a tight fit as there's a lot of wiring back here, but it should hold in entirely on its own with clips. You don't want to have to use the bolts to force it in. The bolts will tighten up this seam and make it look perfect, but you want to make sure that the unit will hold in entirely on its own with just the clips. With it in now, we're going to go ahead and tighten down those two 10mm bolts on each side. We're going to use a 10mm here with an extension, or you can use a deep socket. Now at some point we're going to recommend here, and we're about to do it shortly, before you get too far in with this, either before you put these bolts in, go ahead and re-plug in the main center console cover and test the unit. You want to make sure that you have everything tested and working before you go ahead and reinstall everything in the vehicle. Otherwise, if you've missed something and you need to chat with our tech support team, you won't have to rip everything apart and be really upset. So make sure that you test it while everything is still accessible. If you have any difficulties, you can reach out to us. We have phone support and email support, and we'll be happy to walk you through any common mistakes or pitfalls. We've reconnected the two connectors at the front of the center console, and then these three right here. Make sure they all snap into place. Now position the gear shift through the shift boot, then take the center console, slot the front end, and then it'll just shoehorn into place. Once again, you can put this USB in a variety of locations. You could either route it into your center trim box here, you could route it into your glove box and not down here at all. But for this customer, they wanted it between the passenger seat and the center console. So we're going to pop it out right here, slide it down, and then we'll go ahead and take the center console cover and snap it into place. And just like that, proceed to the trim. With these two trim panels, be very gentle around this vacuum tube. If you disconnected any of these wires, connect them now. Go ahead and take this and snap it into place. If your button here pops out, you can simply press it back in. Then, on your start-stop button, reconnect it if you disconnected it, and snap this trim into place also. Line up this trim panel with your passenger side vent, gently line it into place. Be pretty delicate around the wood trim, and snap it into place. We're going to reinstall this trim panel. Start at the bottom, snapping it into place. Work your way up and over, across by the vent. Make sure, and we open the glove box to do this, when you close it, that everything is flush here. Next, we will reinstall the leather covered trim panels on both the passenger and driver sides. Line it back up into its original socket. Start at the front and pop it into place, moving to the rear. If you're going to put the USB port between the center console and the passenger seat, make sure you have it right where you want it before snapping this one into place fully. We will now repeat this process on the driver's side. Start at the front and work your way to the back, snapping this leather covered trim panel into place. Now we will install this small trim plate. Make sure you have it facing the right direction. Line up the two clips with the holes and snap it into place. Put the gear shift back on its slot and tighten it into place. Reconnect the shift boot. Go ahead and reconnect the negative battery cable into place and use your 10mm socket to tighten it down. And that concludes our installation in the 2019 Lexus GX. We're going to make a few more videos that'll show you an overview of this awesome product. We'll talk about what makes it different from the rest. As well, we'll give you an overview of how to pair and set up Apple CarPlay and audio the first time, or Android Auto and audio if you're an Android user. If you need anything, you can give us a call at 919-858-2890. You can also check out the forum on our website, hamiltonmotorcompany.com.